Welcome back, everybody, to Daily Driven Death Traps. If you haven't been here before, check out our other videos. That's gonna make this video make a lot more sense on why I'm even talking about this, because we seem to be the project car kings, is what I would call it. What I'm gonna talk about in this video. So you know, we kind of get a question a lot, especially at car shows and stuff. What would be your first project car? You know, that's a very, very broad topic, and that's it kind of comes a lot down to what your interests are. But I'm going to kind of tell you what my perspective is on this, because I'm a newer school muscle car guy that likes it. I just have a very broad enjoyment of cars and kind of, you know, a little bit of knowledge on the different vehicles. Being from Iowa, obviously we're going to start out with pickups, because that's kind of be a little bit more of an expertise version of mine. I'm going to give you kind of two options. I'm going to give each one of these. I'm going to tell you kind of a new age car, and I'm going to give you a kind of an old generation car. And I mean, obviously you can pick your poison. So kind of let's just start out. So pickups. So you kind of want an ease of ownership, ease to modify, and plenty of power to get down the road. So, and you want to be able to modify it and have a good time with it. Now, obviously, I started out with a 2005 Ram pickup. That was my little hot rodder. So, you know, I'm not going to say it was perfect, which it wasn't, but you know, for how cheap you can get those vehicles, I would almost 100% recommend it, because it's got, so from 04 to 2009, well, and now you could probably get for a decent price, probably all the way up to 2015. So those trucks with the 5.7 Hemi were almost basically, I'd almost say bulletproof per se. I mean, they all had the little lifter tick right when you got them started, but they last a long time. And being the vehicle I beat on the most of any of mine, that truck has kept up with how hard I've beaten it. Now, you talk about modifying it, ease to modify. I mean, you throw a colder intake on it. If you're a younger guy, you're gonna love it. As soon as you throw a bigger throttle body, you can throw some bigger injectors on her, throw a tuner on her. You know, the sky's the limit on these on that newer truck. I mean, and at least mine was a short bed single cab. It wasn't 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive. But if you had a 4-wheel drive, I can tell you what, she'll take out EcoBoost Mustang easy. It'll take out those little freaking annoying STs as well. So that's kind of my recommendation for a cheap. I can say you could probably get one of those trucks. I mean, inflation nowadays is a little bit harder. I bought mine for $5 grand, but that's pretty cheap nowadays for a first project car, 5 Gs, and you're gonna have something that's gonna be quick, you're gonna have something that's gonna last a while if you really wanted to, and it's gonna be fun and cheap to modify. Now, for an antique truck or older truck, what would I recommend? I'd actually recommend probably a Ford, pretty much a Ford pickup, short bed single cab, or if you can find a 4-wheel drive, if you can find one of those, I would definitely recommend a Ford pickup, because you can kind of modify those, and they basically came with the 302 V8, 351. Those are easy to modify, fun to have, they sound great. Now, that's not to say that I wouldn't find a C10 of those, like the same generation, probably from 60s all the way up to the 80s. Same with the Ford. That generation is always going to have your bigger V8, well, mid-size 350 or the 302, and you're going to have a really good time modifying that. That is your big intelligence booster. That's going to give you a lot of know-how on the car market. So you can bolt on an intake, you can bolt on a car, bolt on some headers, you know, get rowdy. You can learn how to do a cam on it. Gosh, the sky's the limit on those. But that's those two, pretty much your C10 or your F100, or you know, you could go to an F250. Either of those, you can get 4-wheel drive, or two-wheel drive. It's kind of what you're looking to do. If you're a little rednecker, you like to do old four-wheel drive, definitely you know what you're going to go for. If you want to do some racing and you want to keep the truck for a while, go for the two-wheel drive. It's up to you. Now, if we're talking a first project car, kind of if you're looking to get, you know, get a little bit of speed on you, get a little bit of fun going. I mean, this is going to be a simple thing for me. It was kind of my first project car. It was the Fox body Mustang platform. Now, right now they're skyrocketing in price, but I would still say they're kind of worth what you get. I just picked one up for a pretty decent price, and I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but it's good looking and it's a good platform. Now it's going to give you the best of both worlds. It's probably the best vehicle almost in the world to hit every single box. You can get it to handle, you can get it to drag, you can get it to just basically pro touring. You can do anything with them. They're very versatile. They're known for mostly drag racing, but they sell so many parts. You can order the whole car out of a catalog, and you can still pick up a decent one for $5,000. I know this is a first project car or just a project car video. Not many people are gonna have the $4,000. So kind of, or $4,000 to $5,000 to get a running driving one, but also to find one that doesn't have an engine and trans, super easy. And then you can just find a 302 out of a freaking Ford pickup, throw that sucker in there, and you're gonna still have a 2,800 pound little rocket ship to have fun with. That's not to say, I'm not going to say you can probably go out and find a little old school muscle car from probably the 70s, and almost sad to say almost 80s. You could probably find yourself a very cheap, let's say Camaro, or maybe even the bigger Chevelle of its generation. One of our friends had one of those. You can buy every single part for Camaro of that generation, and you can pick them up for about the same as a Fox body, or even cheaper now. But right now, to get a project car, you're pretty much gonna have to find one for cheap with no engine and trans, and you're gonna have to put the work in finding a cheap engine and trans. Kind of that's where we're at with two builds we have. Alex is building his Camaro, and that's almost as budget friendly as you can get. I mean, he's doing almost all of it himself. So now, for a new age project car, you know, I'm not huge on the new stuff whatsoever, but you know, I'm still gonna stick with my Fox platform or Mustang platform. SN95 Mustangs are a sweet platform. You can do so much fun with them, and they're just they're basically a Fox, just a little bit newer, same platform. They are a good time, and same with the S197s. The 4.6 is meh, but you can make them sound good, and you can make them do what they want to do, and they'll last 200,000 miles unless they shoot a spark plug out of the block. Those are your trucks and your newer generation car. Your trucks, your cars, kind of what I would recommend as project cars. Now, I know a lot of guys are doing the Focus STs as their little first project cars. I don't know how that's not my expertise. I mean, if you want to do that kind of little stuff, go ahead. I mean, it got Alex into the fun, but I mean, that's not my style. And if you're kind of on our channel, you see that's not our style really anymore. We like the bigger V8s and the loud stuff that's makes its appearance known. But if there's plenty of other options out there. I mean, those Nissan 370Zs, 350Zs, if you're into those are crazy cool. If you have money to put into them, they can be fast. Those GX70s, G37s, thank you, Alex. G37s, G35s, we've seen those do some crazy things down in Texas. Those FRSs, it's kind of the same thing. You can slide those around. So if you're kind of like, if you like the more import stuff, you're not going to want to take my advice, because I've never owned them. But those are some of those some dudes we've seen down in our areas. That's what they're hot rodding around in, and they have a good time with those. So, and I mean, they're kind of bulletproof, because you see a lot of younger guys drive them. So if you're getting into a project car, what process kind of would I recommend? This is coming from somebody that's kind of started a car at almost every single process, from basically nothing to everything. So if you're buying something, you want to get something that's like basically like how I bought a Comet, and it had the engine, it had trans. I mean, it was all basically still original. Now that gives you a very good place to start. That was my big first project car. All I did is had a 302 rebuilt, and I used the original C4. I don't know how it worked, but it did. And that was probably the most budget-friendly car I've ever done. I bought a freaking I bought a wiring harness, stuck it in there, and it was running and driving. I probably had like $3 grand into it, but that's beside the point. My point is you want to get something that's fully assembled, and you do not. This is like the biggest no-no of what I see, what people lose their ambition when they're building something, is they take it down to ground zero. If you take the windows out, you take everything out, you're gonna lose interest, because you're gonna look at that thing and it's gonna just be a freaking big mess. So if you have the chance, find your project car in somewhat decent shape. It doesn't have to be running and driving. If you have some engine trans picked out, at least you'll kind of have an idea of it's gonna work when it's done, and it still has an interior, and it's still gonna be kind of neat driving down the road. Basically, this is something I've learned from watching roadkill my whole life. Don't get it right, don't get it running. That's the biggest truth of anything, because as soon as that car is not, if it's tore apart to ground zero, you got the way longer trip than as long as you have something that's half done, maybe a quarter done, and it's running on the road. You're gonna wanna tear that back into it. You can do suspension, you can do stuff, and you're gonna wanna get it done that much faster because you had the taste of what it was on the road. So that's kind of what I got for first project cars. I mean, that's just what it's gonna be. You're gonna experience what you're gonna want to experience, and especially knowing the field, you're gonna learn a lot of things on the road, but hopefully kind of makes it a little easier for you to pick out something you're gonna enjoy.